Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's episode. It is Wednesday, August 18th, and you know what that means? It's Hump Day. I always got to say that, and you guys always cringe. I know. Welcome everybody. Kind of, in a happy mood today because, as you know, we were discussing before the show. I felt like the markets really didn't do that big of a plunge that they normally do on Monday and Tuesdays. I feel confident in it. I'm still, keeping an eye out based on CJ's interpretation of the S&P 500 charts from yesterday. So we'll see where that goes. But other than that, feeling kind of bullish, especially when we have, different alts like Terra Luna pulling up 380% plus for the month. And it's not alone. So we're going to discuss as well today. But before we get started, just want to let you know everything that we talk about, vocalize, analyze, trade, share, show on the screen is not to be construed for financial advice by Market Rebellion or Trade the Chain. So please, let's just keep this entertaining and educational, folks. But that aside, you guys know CJ and Monty, crypto analyst from MarketRebellion.com. And, a couple of things. One, you got something going on today, guys. So why don't you shout that out?
Yes, that is right, Alex. We got a webinar today at market close with the options oracle, AJ Monty. He's got a pretty bold prediction for the markets. He thinks that we're going to see a pretty significant correction on Friday. So we'll talk to him about that. He's made some predictions before. So I'm excited to pick his brain today and see what he thinks of crypto as well. And that's today at market close, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
And I just pinned that message to the top of the live chat, folks. So hit that link. Go watch AJ Monty, the crypto oracle, the options oracle against these two right here, the crypto oracles. That'll always be exciting. So very cool. Also, folks, don't forget, we have our TradeTheChain.com referral contest for the Las Vegas NASCAR V.I.P experience in Vegas. So check that out. Details in the description below.
Yeah, we got to meet Landon this weekend. Super cool guy. Like, just such a down-to-earth guy. And you can tell he loves crypto, too. So it was really nice to meet him.
Come on, we got him on board the NFT train the other day. He bought his NFTs, his Raging Bulls, Badass Bulls.
Yeah, Landon was, he was a racing prodigy from very early on. And nevertheless, really down to earth, really nice guy, and really the only one of the only drivers to be really interested in crypto. So it was a pleasure to meet him and get to hang out with the Voyager car and whatnot. But with that being said, you guys want to hit some charts?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so if we go down to the Bitcoin chart here, let's start off. I just want to make a brief point about sequential and how we typically go through 1 to 4 candle corrections of the opposite color. In this case, that would be red candles after we experience a TD sequential sell 9. So even if we don't top, say, directly on that candle, maybe, after a few candles, we typically will come back down below where the 9 originated. And that's what we're starting to see now. We had a bullish engulfing candle creating that last TD sequential sell 9. And ever since, the market has given some back as profit taking has occurred. Also have that bearish cross on the MACD. That is kind of a warning signal or just a reflection of previous bearish price action. But we also have the RSI starting to turn up on the 1-day chart, which I think is pretty promising. Also, we're starting to get a green candle and we're starting to turn up a little bit. The one difference, though, is that this time around, we're seeing a lot less volume than we saw, on our initial way up. There was a lot of volume fueling this rally and, overall our climb to about 47,000. So I do want to see some sufficient volume come back into the market. I think overall there's a lot of people who are scared right now, not only in Bitcoin, but also in traditional equities. I think the statistic that John Najarian said this morning on the Daily Crypto Bite, I believe I don't remember the exact sentiment indicator he referenced. I'll have to go back and watch the episode, but there was a specific sentiment indicator regarding to equities that he referenced, and it is the most bearish it has ever been since 2011. And so people are scared, and it kind of ironically, we are still kind of just grinding higher. So it'll be interesting to see where the market goes with everybody being so bearish. Maybe it'll fool people here for the next couple weeks or potentially months. But back to Bitcoin, the thing that I do like that I'm seeing from a bullish perspective is the fact that we're actually starting to get a green candle. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit. So check out how we got our green bullish engulfing candle at the bottom of a downtrend last instance. That was on some above average volume, and that was off of a critical support level. And this told us, hey, it's appropriate now to get back into the trade because we're bouncing off of support, right? The bulls are willing to come into this level, and we're going to experience a role reversal from previous resistance to now new support. We got that on this red 4 candle here. And it's looking like we're starting to do something similar right here in our current red 2 candle. One thing that I want to wait for is confirmation. And there's a couple different ways that you can arrive at confirmation. But the way that I'm going to showcase today is through Heikin-Ashi candles. And this, if you were to use this methodology on our last buy the dip opportunity, it would have got you in pretty much 1 day late, but it would have given you some extra confirmation of a new uptrend. So let me be a little bit more specific. So right when we get a turn and a flip back to green momentum, that is ultimately the confirmation sign in the Heikin-Ashi candles that tell me, okay, bullish momentum's back. We're probably going to test a higher level here. We haven't gotten that green Heikin-Ashi candle despite today's nice rally. That's going to be something I'm watching for further bullish confirmation going in here. I think also, this moving average has really acted as some nice support all throughout the uptrend. That will likely continue to come up over the next couple days and weeks, and will probably arrive at somewhere likely at 42K, which would be in some nice confluence with that point. Actually, it's the 0.382 Fibonacci level. So that's actually a little bit more strong than our 0.5 level that we were just rejected at. So interesting things that you can watch for there going into the next week. Last thing I want to check out briefly here before passing it back to you, gentlemen, is the weekly perspective, because I think the weekly perspective is giving us a lot more to be bullish about. It kind of puts this correction in perspective. As you can see throughout the last month, or specifically the last 4 weeks here, we've had tremendously bullish price action, and the candles have really reflected that. However, we're starting to run into some resistance, right? If we take this and extrapolate the Fibonacci levels, we've clearly run into that 0.05 resistance level. And, it's not really a big deal, but we might need a couple more attempts at this level before we break into higher price ranges. One thing that I've talked about as well that I think is really bullish is the MACD actually crossing. This is not something that we saw a lot in previous bear markets. This is something relatively new, which leads me to be pretty optimistic on the current trend. Of course, we need to see follow through, but overall, I think where the MACD and where the RSI are right now is we're setting up for a neutral consolidation, which will likely break into higher levels if we are to see some follow through on that. So that's something that I've been watching, and something I think a reason why we actually might be bullish here from a more weekly perspective. But with all that being said, I will pass it back to you guys and stop sharing.
Yeah, no, I think, one of the biggest factors right now is definitely the greater traditional markets. And, the Vasic points it out in chat. The Afghanistan news is not good for the markets. And, we kind of saw that on Monday. When the market opened, we saw a little bit of uncertainty in the traditional equity market. And we're kind of still seeing that play out today. And CJ, in the past, you've talked a lot about, trading, using the SPX trends to kind of, position yourself in Bitcoin. And it's worked out great. And it's kind of, a good gauge of just the the mentality of the overall, trading community here. And as you can see, we're kind of turning down here on the SPX. And I think we should consider the possibility of, a potential retest of this 20-period smooth moving average. This is something we've seen happen, a few times when we've gotten some bearish momentum, and it's acted as kind of a magnet to price, like CJ pointed out earlier. Now, every time that's happened, it's been kind of followed by a bullish engulfing candle and then a continuation to, continued higher highs. And that's something that we definitely have to consider here, because it does look like we're trending down. There's a ton of uncertainty in the markets right now. And I think that if this were to come to fruition and we do kind of come all the way down to retest this level here, that could potentially for Bitcoin, be a retest of this same, smooth moving average at perhaps 42K, which has, historically been a critical level for Bitcoin. I think as long as we remain above 42K, the trend looks strong. A break below this level would be, bearish for quite a few reasons. We'd lose that lower high, and, it just would not be good for overall momentum. We could probably see a turn down here. But I think it makes sense that we kind of cool off a little bit here and see some indecision in the markets, because we failed to break above this critical level at 48K, marked by that Fibonacci level that CJ mentioned. And now with just sort of uncertainty in the overall markets, it is looking like we're kind of stepping off the gas a bit here. So volume's declining. I want to see that turn up a little bit. But in the meantime, we're hovering around this level of 45K, which is in itself a very critical level in terms of both, it's where the 200 period simple moving average is at, and also it's where we have the most order book depth. So really the end of this week is kind of going to be critical. So we'll be watching all those levels and a lot more.
Very cool. I mean, one of the things that I'm looking at this and I'm still feeling bullish, right? I know we're still at a tipping point right now, depending on signals. But one of the things that really that's making me feel comfortable with what's happening and kind of betting on the fact that we might show an uptick in the whole trend is the fact that, you look here and, CJ had the Bitcoin Bitstamp chart up earlier, and there was a bottom columns, green and red, right below the bands that he was pointing out, and it looked exactly like this sentiment chart right here. There was a positive followed by a dip, and it looked like it was closing in onto the positive. Now, the thing here, you look at the 1 day, sentiment is going up. Prices going up with it. So I hope that we get kind of keep going with that trend and keep going with that sentiment. And hopefully on your boys' charts, the next tick is to the positive upside to keep it swinging. So we'll see. We're closing in on a little too much time decay right now. It's August 18th. I really would like to see that acceleration and a second leg up happen towards the end of the first week. CJ has something to come in on. What do you got, CJ?
I just want to say that in terms of time decay, I wouldn't be worried too much here. I mean, this is August, July, typically very low volume periods where Wall Street is on vacation a lot of the time. No reason to be a hero in those months. And I think because we're not really used to exponential trends, it's hard for humans to grasp exponential growth. We've talked about this previously, but Bitcoin's initial run to 40K did about 115% in only 27 days. So that means we could grind sideways here from 40 to 50K. And even if we're in 50K by November, we could still finish the year over 100, or that even, a couple of years other. So just thought I'd throw that into the mix. That's all.
You bring up a good point, though. We're going into, we're in the last 2 weeks of August. Traditionally, this has been summertime for Wall Street. This is when a lot of people go on vacation. This in the first couple of weeks of January. So with our declining volume, I'm worried that possibly there might be some big Asia trades or overseas trades in general, which might affect the market more than it normally would with the declining volume. Monty, is this something that keeps you up at night during the second half of August or no?
It doesn't keep me up at night, no, Alex, because that's something that definitely does happen. I mean, you can see it to a more micro scale on the weekends alone. When we have small volume, we get large candles with some pretty volatile price. So in terms of interim volatility, sure, that's a concern, but in terms of the health of the overall trend, I don't really see that as much of a concern. And back to your point about time decay, we have some pretty major fundamental events coming up here in September with the infrastructure bill hitting the House floor and also a potential stimulus bill that could really, boost the traditional markets. So I think that we might be kind of lingering in limbo here and just kind of hitting the pause button for maybe a month or so. But I don't think time decay is a concern quite yet.
Let me ask you this: how are the expiries doing for the end of the month? What are they looking like? Any view into that? Because and by the way, $40,000 and $50,000 call options for March on Ethereum are still raging popular right now. So that's kind of an interesting play in itself. But it's the lottery ticket, right? You're buying those for pennies at the current moment. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I did just want to touch on something that Monty had mentioned from a much more macro perspective regarding stimulus and the infrastructure bill. That will likely lead to higher prices within like the next 6 to 12 months because the money printing in the like QA is not necessarily going to stop. We know that Democrats and the Fed is still in favor of that. And so I don't really see any macro systemic threats within like the next 6 to 8 months. But we'll see.
But do you see the problem afterwards when we have an overinflated economy?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it's not sustainable, but I'm just talking in the short term, and applying it to stock to flow and whatnot. So,
all inebriations must have a hangover.
yeah, and to your point also about the low volume affecting price a lot. It's interesting what's happened with VGX now that the swap is underway, because of course you can't trade it on Voyager or Binance, yet on Uniswap and some of the other smaller exchanges, there's little volume, but there's individuals pushing price around.
And real quickly before we pull up, what Monty has to display, we were speaking about this the other day in the dislocation of prices, right? Because right now you have VGX suspended from trading, but people are seeing trading in other venues. And it was interesting, of course, we saw our friend Pat Ackerman hit Twitter yesterday and say, somebody teach me how to trade these DeFi platforms so I could buy up all the liquidity. I VGX hero right there. So, but when the suspension lifts from Voyager on the VGX token, we will see some dislocation in price. And people just need to know that because it is being traded somewhere else. So explain to us how that price is going to come together once again in the days following that, the relaunch of the VGX token. Or I can.
Well, obviously volume is going to come back, but whether it goes up or down, I think is anybody's question. I think it really depends on Bitcoin. And whether people want to rally it. It could end up being a buy the rumor, sell the news type event. But I think it's a coin flip right now. That's largely dependent on Bitcoin and the collective market. But let's hear your opinion, Alex.
No, I mean, it's just going to be like any other token swap that's gone through where there has been halting of it. And it's just the prices are going to come back together once the volumes pick up. Like you say, that's exactly how it does. It's a free market. There's going to be people are going to try to see if there's any arbs between any of the platforms. And there shouldn't be. The arbs will probably be looking upside down for them at that point. But it'll take about a week. And then the platforms pricing will start to come together. You also have to remember that VGX is not on any of their LPs, I believe, that provide liquidity to the brokerage. So I do not think that they're not aggregating order books to create an average price. It'll be a spot price they set. And Mr. Digital Asset News, quick monetary support for a new pack of smokes for Alex. A down payment on a new robe for CJ. And thanks to Monty for being, I wouldn't say chill. I'd replace that with being normal out of the bunch. But thank you, Digital Asset News. Appreciate it. And to big TCO yesterday, I did know who you are. I saw you calling me out on Twitter when you did the super chat yesterday. And I'm sorry I gave you the nickname Big Toe. It's just how I see it when it pops up on the screen. But thanks for being a good sport, buddy. Really appreciate it. All right, Monty, take us to what you got.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna quickly mention something you brought up earlier, and that is Bitcoin options open interest. We kind of have seen it slow down a little bit. It was looking very good for the first half of August, as you can see here. A steady increase across the board, and most notably, note this tan to yellow section here. This is the CME, and this is kind of where like to look in terms of an institutional interest perspective. And as you can see, August 9th, we started to see, a pretty big increase here in terms of open interest from the CME. But still, kind of like the rest of the market, just kind of taking a pause right now. I think that, given the uncertainty in terms of the traditional equity markets and also the infrastructure bill still looming large in September, I think institutions are just waiting a little bit. But I still think they're going to be the key to this next leg up. And I expect these numbers to just shoot through the roof, late September or sometime in October.
All right, very cool. Big shout out to Apex the Optionator. I know you guys, you're always speaking positive of the Market Rebels mystique, and we appreciate you very much. Folks, let's do what everybody wants to do, which is take a look at this guy right here, Terra Luna. I mean, look at this, the price action it's had. It's up over 380% for the trailing 30 days. Monty, you want to go into this?
Yeah, no, I want to lay up CJ here a little bit because I think he has a good way to trade this. And, there's some debate going on in the comments here that I'm seeing, is Luna still undervalued? That's impossible to say for sure. But what you can tell is, some hardcore numbers to take the emotion out of it. And I think CJ has a sort of, Bollinger Bands moving average strategy that kind of takes the emotion out of this trade and gives you a good perspective of when to perhaps consider getting out of this thing. Because, I thought, looking at it from a purely technical perspective, you could have said that this thing was overbought yesterday or the day before, but it's continued to rip. So, CJ, you want to talk about your standard deviation strategy?
Yeah, thank you for that, Monty. I would say Luna is definitely overvalued in the short term. Doesn't mean I don't like it or don't have a desire to buy it. I just think that there's going to be probably a strong likelihood that there's an opportunity to get this thing much cheaper and probably below $25 or even $20. But then again, this thing may just run away. Let's take a look at the technicals and get a clear perspective of what we're looking at here.
You're talking 30% or over retraction possible.
Yeah, because remember how dramatic this was?
Yeah.
We did not see that coming, and Luna had an incredible run from. In November it started at not even $1, like 33 cents, and during that peak, we were at $22.
And if you show that high volume, I'll tell you right now, look at CJ, just if you go to that high volume indicator right there in February, or actually right after the February one from a time standpoint, that is when it got the magical listing on Voyager.
Yeah, that's correct. I love comparing this volume and these spikes that we see to rocket fuel in the overall markets. Of course, this one that I just circled was a liquidity grab. This is where all of basically the retail traders or smaller traders capitulated, and larger individuals or larger institutions who believed in Luna for the long haul were able to accumulate throughout this channel here. I think those same players are going to take profit at some inevitable points because we are just at such a strong parabola right now with Luna. But let me get into what you guys want to hear, and that is the actual trading strategy. So what I like to use, and this is difficult, right? Because during exponential trends and during bubbles, it's very hard to know how high they're going to go. I never thought VGX was going to go to like $7 in the time frame that it did. I thought it was going to go to $4, and I was very wrong. But I do want to add the Bollinger Bands because it allows you to stay in the trade and still ride those profits out with a trailing stop. So let me go ahead and add those. And as you'll notice here, we are on a TD sequential sell 9 at the peak of a really parabolic uptrend. So this makes me believe that we are going to top in Luna relatively soon. If it's not, today, tomorrow, or the next day, I think we will correct eventually, and we will go below this $25 level. So if you were in a Luna trade right now, or if I was in a Luna trade right now, I would look for a close below the top or outer Bollinger Band as a trailing stop to get out of the trade. And in this case, we're using 2 standard deviations when it comes to the inputs in the Bollinger Bands. And that's because this trend has been ultra volatile. One thing that I want to point to is that I like to accommodate this strategy based on the trend. And for instance, let's go back to the earlier trend in Luna. This one would have been much more applicable to the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Bands, which is what I have highlighted here. Because when we reached a top and we had a first or second candle close below that outer band, ultimately that was the interim top, right? That was the interim take profit point for a lot of traders out there. So as you can see, applying that same method to this particular run, it'll get you out if we get, say, a bearish engulfing candle here. But I think since this trend has gone so parabolic, it's more appropriate to apply the 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band, because then, like, if we get a very obvious bearish engulfing candle following this, then that's like a very clear indication to me, okay, we're probably going to come back down to the moving average and form some sort of support for potentially climbing higher into new all-time highs. So I really like that strategy with the Bollinger Bands, and thanks for lining me up to be able to discuss that one.
No worries. It's good insight no matter what. One of the things that I just want to show everybody real quick once again is that daily, or that the 1 day hourly sentiment on Luna, it's up in the positive. It's shaking back and forth a little on the sideways, but hey, let's go to some other coins that are real hot. First of all, we got some on the daily sentiment right now. Polka Starter on the very bullish side with a 92 score. Looking down, we got BNB, $404 for Binance coin. I mean, you want to put it into perspective between other platform coins. $404. That's pretty cool. Basic attention token, some others. Pancake Swap still in the mix. Bullish at 76 on the daily. 80% return, but you look at these returns, some very decent returns going on for the 30 days for sure. So exciting stuff ahead. We'll see what happens with the market. Folks, thank you so much for a great Hump Day Wednesday show. Please don't forget to check out the link that I pinned to the top of the live chat. That's for the AJ Monty, the options oracle, going against CJ and Monty, the crypto oracles. That's who they are now. And that's going to be today over at marketrebellion.com. So click that link. Check out the Daily Crypto Bite as well with John Najarian and them. It's in the description as well. And of course, don't forget to go to tradethechain.com and marketrebellion.com/crypto. Until tomorrow, hang on to your handlebars. Hopefully we have some green on the overnight and bring you more good news tomorrow. Thanks, folks.